What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambo. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can text us 865-658-5824. We're flying solo this morning as Tim is still on assignment in Milwaukee, and Emilio's on assignment in his bed, I'm sure. Here to talk a little Packers as we're inching our way towards now the Detroit Lions game coming up. And we obviously have Chalk Talk tonight where we're going to break down all of the top plays from the huge win there on Thanksgiving night against the Miami Dolphins. We came up with 15 plays. Really, really fun breaking down that tape. Excited to see exactly what you guys think about that and get your input on it as we go through that tape. Today, we're going to do things a little different. We're going to kind of take a look on Twitter, see what's going on around the league. You know, the Lions are really, really banged up. I don't want to dive too deep into that game. We'll have plenty of time a little later in the week as we've got a Thursday night kickoff coming up. Obviously, we'll have a full slate of games in the NFL, or a somewhat full slate tomorrow that'll have some playoff implications on the Packers season here. We'll hit on that a little later in the week. But today, just wanted to kind of walk around Twitter for a second and show you guys some of the stuff, like the key injuries with the Detroit Lions coming up is wild. I mean, there are a ton of defensive players on that injured reserve list, and we may not get to all of it, but we also want to take a look at the Packers roster from a contractual standpoint. Like, okay, what does the roster look like here in the next 1 to 2 years, right? Who's going to be free agents? Who's still under contract? Who are restricted free agents? Things like that. As we kind of get towards the end of the season, we'll get an idea of, okay, there's a handful of players that we may or may not bring back. How do we stand on those? I want to get your all's input on that as well. This was somewhat of a surprise show this morning. We were planning on not doing one. I woke up and, hey, you know what? Let's do it. Let's roll with it. So before we get started, let's give a quick shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description and they'll send you their website, theticketking.com. You can register for free as a customer there and go ahead and start looking around for your Packers tickets. We still got several home games coming up, so make sure you check with Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, so let's just jump into Twitter first and kind of see what's going on there. And you guys, I'll try to keep an eye on the chat here as well, keep you involved. Matter of fact, let's give a shout out. We got Miss Jen Wright in the house. Good to see you, ma'am. Thank you for swinging by. Carl K. In here, he says, anybody else in here? I am, Carl. There you go. All right, now we got a bunch filing in right now. Again, we just kind of put this together a little late, but that's all right. Carl K says, looking for the Chalk Talk revelation. Chalk Talk's going to be fun tonight, man. There was some really cool stuff. This was a unique one, in my opinion. I think we had 10 of the 15 plays. Matter of fact, no, we had more than that. We had 12 of the 15 plays came in the first half. That's very, very rare that happens. Historically, it seems like the Packers start slow in the game, and then they really turn it up in the second half. This was one of those games where the majority of the action was in the first half, and then obviously a handful of plays there in the second half. But it was a lot of fun. Really, really fun breaking down. So Jen saying she's finally catching the show live. I appreciate you swinging through. There's Andres in the house. Good to see you. Thank you, ma'am. Awesome. Got a bagel delivered just now, man. Don't get any better than this. I see Ron Samble in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Winning the last two games. This is Biz. Winning the last two games makes this next game a great opportunity instead of a, quote, must win. Totally different energy, right? It's exciting. It's fun, man. It's fun to go into a week going, you know what? Everybody's going to be probably betting against you, right? You're going to see all the national networks. I imagine the majority will be on the Lions, even though they're so banged up, and that's cool. It's obviously going to be on the road, so there's lower expectations in that regard. It's hard to win on the road in the NFL. It's kind of one of those, hey, let's sit back and enjoy the game. And like I always talk about, it's a measuring stick. It's all right, let's see where this Packers team is right now. Can they hang with the big bad Lions? That's the question. And if you go in there and you win, or if you lose by less than 10 points, you kind of like where you're at going into this little playoff push. If you somehow, some way beat them, then it shows, hey, look, we can beat anybody in this league. There's no denying it. Listen, if the Packers beat the Lions this week, what it proves is, okay, we might not be the best team, but we can beat the best team on any given Sunday, right? And we know that kind of goes without saying, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you feel a lot better about this team as you make that playoff push if you somehow, some way beat the Lions. So really, it's again, to me, it feels like it's I don't know, man. It's kind of risk free. You guys ever get those risk free bets given to you? Some of the gambling sites with this one kind of feels like, hey, look, if we lose, everybody's expecting us to lose, right? If you somehow win, all of a sudden you might be the Super Bowl favorite. So I'm gonna kill my camera as I munch into it here for just a second. But I don't know if all that makes sense or not. I think it's gonna be cool though, as I chew and talk. How we stack up against the Lions, I think it's gonna be awesome. So let's see what else we got in here real quick. Carl in the chat. Tomorrow I turn 80 years old. Hope to see another Super Bowl win for the Pack. That's wild. Hey, happy early birthday, Carl. And man, you've seen a lot of Packers. That's for sure. That's it's funny you mentioned that. Let me just go ahead and pop this on the screen. And listen, Carl, I'm not saying you're this old. Okay, please don't take this the wrong way. But when you talk about how the game's changed over the years, it's wild because it was just a short time ago, like me growing up in the 90s, professional football from the 90s to today has changed so much. You had a lot more in the early 90s. You had a lot of that pro set, two backs. And you've seen a lot of that, I'm sure, at 80 years old. You probably remember the Lombardi days, or at least heard about a lot of the Lombardi days if you weren't a fan at the time. Trying to do the math in my head. That would have made sense, yeah. So you've seen the pro set under Lombardi where it was basically a split backfield under center, right? I've seen a lot of that in the 90s too. Now, Lawrence Taylor kind of changed the game when he came on the scene and was just this excellent pass rusher, right? I mean, he just kind of absolutely took over. And teams had to start putting a tight end on the line of scrimmage on his side. They would also go with one single back offset to his side to try to block him. In some cases, they would allow a double team every time on Lawrence Taylor because they didn't play really, really wide 9 looks back then. They would fan the guard and the tackle over to block Lawrence Taylor, and the running back will be kind of head up in the gap there to try to stop an interior defensive lineman. Really changed the game. But check this out right here. This came across my Twitter earlier today under historic videos. And historic videos, listen, they cover a lot of stuff. It might not be a good follow for you, but I thought this was really cool. We'll mute the music, of course. But look at this. It kind of looks like Packer colors. I could be wrong. That might be the Packers. Of course, the uniforms don't look much different. But this is from the 1940s. Check this out, man. I mean, these guys, you're talking about a tough bunch of guys, the leather helmets. And what's crazy about the leather helmets, when you hear about the leather helmets, you think, man, I bet they got a bunch of concussions. They probably did, but the reality is guys wouldn't lead with their head as much back then, right? Because you could kill yourself. Today, the players are so protected by the helmet. That's what leads to more and more concussions because they're leading with their helmet and causing those concussions and those micro concussions too in the trenches. Think about it. In the trenches, every single play, what we call the pit, they're banging heads, right? You kind of lead with your helmet as a defensive lineman and then work your pass rush move off of it. That's why J.J. Watt always had the cut across his nose, right? And it's what essentially patient zero, which was Mike Webster, the center, the obviously NFL Hall of Fame center in Pittsburgh. It's what caused his CTE was the micro concussions. Essentially, they said it was a small concussion every single snap, right? Like it was just a bang, bang, bang. It might not be the one where you see stars and it rings your bell and you can't think for a second, but it's those micro concussions is what built up to leading to CTE and everything. If you guys have not seen the movie Concussion, man, it's I'm not a big movie person. You guys know me. I'm just not, I don't get into it. I don't get into Hollywood. I call it Holly weird. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in Hollywood. I just don't get into that whole movie star thing. But if it's a movie that's based around a true story and there's something I can learn from it, I love it. Almost like a docudrama or what have you. Love that type of stuff. You need to watch Concussion. It'll change the way you think about the game, man. I know I used to be that fan, and I've said that from time to time here. I used to be that fan that was, man, they're ruining the game. These guys are soft. They need to let them play, blah, blah, blah. I watched Concussion. I was like, boy, am I an idiot. Am I an idiot, man. So, yeah, Jen Wright's seen it, obviously. She says, great movie. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's just so well put together. Jen, the scene that gets me, spoiler alert, listen, the movie's been out over a decade, I'm pretty sure. So if you haven't seen it yet, don't get mad at me if I spoil it. The scene that gets me, Jen, is when they're in the courtroom and they're finally getting this stuff acknowledged that CTE is a thing, and it shows Mike Webster in the back. I'm trying to get emotional right now, man. It shows Mike Webster in the back of the courtroom. And if you guys know, Mike Webster's dead at that point. Man, that hit me so hard. I was like, oh my God. It was really well done. Really well put together. So let's see. Brambo said, where the hell was he throwing that ball? I'm guessing he's talking about this right here. Let's see, man. Let's see where he was throwing that ball. Let's take a look at it here. Look at this sprint left, right? It's a great boy. Hey, that's laid across the middle. Is it not, Brambo? That's bad luck there, buddy. Bad luck. So, yeah, I love watching those old tapes, man. All right, Jen Wright said yes, Clay. So she agrees. That scene was just awesome. So go watch it. Go watch it today. If you're looking for a movie to watch, go watch Concussion. Like I said, it's old, but really, really good. Really well put together. All right, so Keyshawn put this tweet out. Keep the hate. I just want the love. Hashtag K9. Showed him running out of the tunnel. If you guys remember, I think Keyshawn was one that got frustrated with social media earlier this year and was just like, I'm done. I'm stepping away, right? I don't understand the fans that kind of go at the players. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand the fans that argue with the players' parents and family. It's like if my family member, and this doesn't apply to Keyshawn, okay? This doesn't apply to Keyshawn at all, but I'm just saying, like, it's another issue. If my family member played football and I logged on to social media and there was some handful of knuckleheads who were bashing his character and calling him soft and made of glass and this and that, you can bet your ass I'd get mad. Yeah, I'm responding 110% of the time. That's my family member. That's my friend. And you're trying to question his integrity. If you want to question the play on the field, absolutely, that's cool. But when this whole made of glass stuff and it's coming from Hambubger872 on Twitter that doesn't even have the huevos to put his real name on his Twitter account and darn sure won't put a picture of himself. I have no words for that, really. It's coward. You're being a coward, So I love that Keyshawn put that, like, hey, keep the hate. I just want the love. Hopefully he stays engaging on Twitter. I think Keyshawn's a good dude. You see his teammates absolutely adore him. If you guys seen Robert Rochelle get the game ball too, there after it sounded like if I understood correctly, he lost a couple family members or friends, some kind of tragedy. Again, I don't want to speak too much on it because I don't know any of the details, but to see him say, I love my teammates and Keyshawn jump up and say, we love you. It's just awesome, man. That's the type of stuff that matters. And I know there's some people that are listening to my voice right now and they're rolling their eyes because it's just all about jersey numbers and statistics and spreadsheets and all that. But the locker room's a real thing, man. And you've got to have that camaraderie. I always talk about the 2010 Packers when they won the Super Bowl. Guys, they were underdogs. Nobody expected them to win the Super Bowl. And they go on this run on the road in the playoffs. Kind of feels similar this year, I'm just saying. They go on the road in the playoffs and go on this big run and win a Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl. And the night before the Super Bowl, I think it was they had a mental health doctor on staff for the Green Bay Packers. And he was standing there next to Mike McCarthy, and they're in the lobby of the hotel they were staying in the night before the Super Bowl. And I think it was, I can never remember his name, CJ something. CJ, somebody will find it in the chat. Big defensive lineman, young at the time. He could play piano. And they started playing like this Christian song on the piano, and all the whole team started kind of singing together. And they said that sports psychologist, I think is the technical term, leaned over and nudged Mike McCarthy and said, you just won the damn Super Bowl. Pretty cool. That stuff matters, man. That stuff matters. So for all the spreadsheet nerds out there that you get caught up in just the statistics and this guy isn't up to snuff, we can get this guy who's 0.1% better. The locker room matters, man. It really, really matters. So I think this team has got a little bit of that, man, being the youngest team in the league. Pretty cool. So, all right, another tweet went out. I just put Isaiah McDuffie appreciation post. Wes Hodkiewicz had tweeted this out. He said, Matt LaFleur says the Packers didn't think on Sunday night that Isaiah McDuffie was going to be able to make the quick turn because of his ankle injury. He played 63 snaps, every single snap on defense, finishing with 10 tackles, a forced fumble, and a third down breakup. So we were talking about that earlier in the week, man. If McDuffie can't go because of that ankle, we are really, really hemmed up there at linebacker. We'd be limited to 3. It would have been, I'm trying to think here, it would have been Quay, it would have been Eric Wilson, and Tyron Hopper, because Jamin Davis got signed, obviously, by the Minnesota Vikings. And the fact that McDuffie not only went out there, but he played every snap, according to this, I'm assuming that's correct. Finished with 10 tackles, a forced fumble, and a key third down breakup. McDuffie earned a lot of my respect there on Thanksgiving night, man. And I'm sure he earned a lot of his teammates' respect as well. Matter of fact, let's skip ahead, then we'll come back to that Tucker Kraft tweet. Eli Berkovitz on Twitter, one of the best follows on Twitter. Make sure you go give him a follow at bookofeli_NFL. He put a quick little montage together here of Isaiah McDuffie. Now, you see on this play, as we're looking at it, to me, from the defense's perspective, the tight end's on the right side of the screen. So this would make him the technical mock in this nickel set. Now, remember, we talked about you may get in a situation where you're playing kind of big nickel and bringing the safety down in the box, that type of thing. You notice Evan Williams over here in the box. So they got him playing spur, which was cool. That's the thing that I noticed watching the game too, was it seemed like all night long they seen Xavier McKinney as the post safety for this particular game. There's other games where they'll bring him down in the box and play him predominantly as the spur, but it seemed like they liked their chances of playing over the top with a lot of cover 3 look and McKinney kind of playing the seam and forcing everything underneath, which really does play into the hands of the Dolphins and what they like to do. But it was truly bend but don't break with that defense. It really was. But let's watch this real quick. Again, right here, it looks like he's playing the mock. The reason he's the mock, when it's a nickel 4-2-5, you only got 2 linebackers on the field. You're only going to have a mock and a will. The Sam isn't on the field, okay? So in this case, the mock would be closest to the tight end. The will would be opposite. So you've got Quay playing the will. Now, some people would say it's about hat count, determining what the strong side of the formation is. I've always been taught whichever side the tight end is on is the strong side of the formation, okay? Now, if the tight end's flexed out wide, then you go by the numbers. Other people say, no, it depends on where the T is, where the running back is. I mean, we can agree to disagree. Some coaches look at it different, but for me, the mock would be McDuffie here. Let's watch the play. Let's see what he does. There's a ball snap passing play. You see him drop into coverage. Oh, I remember this play. Look at this. I mean, this is textbook. No penalty. Didn't lead with his head. Led with his shoulder. Perfect timing. Bang, knocking the ball out. That is a perfectly legal stick and causing the pass breakup. All right, here we are again. Now let's see if we can determine. It's definitely strong left. So on this specific play, you've got Eric Wilson on the strong side. So Eric Wilson, he's kind of off camera. Let me do this real quick. Fix that for you. There you go. Eric Wilson is right here. If you can see my cursor. Yeah, right here. So he's playing Sam. So you got your tight end and your H-back. So he's playing Sam, the strong side backer. It seems like they really like Eric Wilson as the Sam when you're in a 4-3 and he's on the field. So he would be the Sam. Quay would be the Mike. And in this case, McDuffie would be the Will. So in the base 4-3, they see McDuffie as the Will. In that nickel, they kind of seen Quay as the Will and put McDuffie at the Mike on that specific play. And it could have been just the specific play call itself, right? And yes, that was a hospital ball, Holmes. You are not kidding, sir. That was a hospital ball, no doubt about it. All right, so let's see if it's a run play. And it is. Look at McDuffie. Look at the shed right here. Look at this, boys. Absolutely awesome. Just a quick shed. Going to close on the ball, take the cutback lane away, force him back inside into Quay, and McDuffie going to make the tackle. Great job there. All right, here we are again. Now, I would call this strong right. Tight end's on the right side of the field. The T is on the weak, okay? When you look at it, notice Eric Wilson is your Sam backer, right here. Quay is the Mike, and McDuffie is the Will on this specific play. Let's see if it's a passing play or not. Ball snap, passing play. Looks like he's kind of squared up on the T right now on the running back. I'm going to try to run a quick out route, and he is all over it. Great job. They completed the pass, but still made the tackle as soon as the pass was completed. All right, here's another play. Got him playing. This is kind of a balanced look. Now you would go kind of, okay, where is the traditional Y? Who is their traditional Y? If it's 89, I would have said strong right. If it's 81, we'd say strong left. Some would just look at it like a balanced approach. Regardless, it looks like he's going to be playing outside linebacker. They're shading now. They're going to shift over a touch. I would definitely call this strong left. So in this case, he would be the Sam on this play. McDuffie would. So again, this to me looks like it's probably split flow. Let's look at it, or what we call slice. Yep. So no guards pulling, but notice that the tight end is coming across the formation, right? And then look at McDuffie slip inside, fill the gap, make the tackle. Great job there. Now he's split out somewhat wide. It looks like they're in a nickel set. So in this case, to me, this looks like, yeah, Quay's the mock. He's closest to the tight end. So that would make McDuffie the will if there's not a linebacker off screen. McDuffie out in coverage. Great coverage. Look at that breakup. I remember that play too, them fighting over the ball. Great job there. All right, here we are again. Quick motion, jumping out into coverage, kind of playing that curl flat. Closes on the ball carrier and tackles Tyreek Hill. Man, McDuffie had a hell of a game, man. I'm glad that Eli Berkovitz tweeted that out, man. That was a lot of fun to see. And it's important to kind of understand, all right, we know they got a good grade. We know they played well statistically, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to the tape and see exactly what they did well. I'm sure that we'll see some McDuffie on Chalk Talk a little later tonight when we do that at 7 p.m. Central Time. All right, so let me get back to my original Twitter here if I can. There we go. It went wonky. Let's hold up a second. Let me try this again. Let's go. Oh, yeah, we got some political ads hitting too. There you go. That's always lovely, right? All right. Let's see. I think there was a couple other things I wanted to hit here on Twitter. Isn't it funny the politics are still hanging on? We thought we were out of the woods. They're back. All right. So this is the tweet I wanted to get to right here. I just said absolutely wild as Ari Mirov tweeted out. The Lions defense currently has defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, linebacker Alex Anzalone, defensive line John Kaminsky, cornerback Enos Rakestraw Jr., linebacker Derek Barnes, defensive lineman Marcus Davenport, safety Melifanu, I hope I'm saying that right, defensive line Kyle Pecco, and linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maben on IR. Now they've also lost Malcolm Rodriguez for the season with a torn ACL. I mean, that's just the injuries are piling up for the Detroit Lions, specifically on defense. Now their offense is still humming. Don't get me wrong. Let's see. Donald in the chat says, "Dang, are these all starters?" I can't confirm or deny that, Donald. I know a lot of these guys. I mean, obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best pass rushers in the league, and Alex Anzalone is definitely a starter. He's that guy that they've been using as a hybrid, as a pass rusher and dropping into coverage. Probably more of a pass rusher than a stack backer, but can kind of do it all. I don't know about Kaminsky. Enos Rakestraw Jr., we talked about him a lot. That was, if I remember correctly, I think that was Tim's favorite corner in the draft, right? I had him as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth best corner in the entire draft. So that's a big loss there. You're expecting that rookie to kind of, much like with us with Jordan Morgan, you're expecting him to contribute as a high pick. And I'm sure he was drafted in the first 3 rounds. I can't imagine he would have dropped out of that. Linebacker Derek Barnes, I think he was borderline starter. Marcus Davenport, pass rusher, if I remember correctly, he played edge for a while. I want to say he was in New Orleans for a while. So definitely a few starters here, but Malcolm Rodriguez, I'm almost positive was a starter. So again, you've got probably 3 or 4 starters that I can notice right there, and then the rest were probably backups. But nonetheless, man, when you guys know how it is, you get in the middle of a game and you have an injury, and these backups all of a sudden become starters. And when those backups are actually your third string guys, because your second stringers are banged up too, man, that's tough for sure. Reef says second string players. That's not true, sir. We had at least three starters there. Let's see. Ron Samuel says Rodriguez was a starting line. I thought he was. He was the big talk of Hard Knocks a few years ago, if you guys remember. So here we go. Brambo says 4 starters. I think that sounds about right. So again, you're losing depth and you're losing starters. It's tough, man. It's brutal. Like Donald says, brutal. And then he also says really affects special teams. Yeah, with the backup players, that's a great point. So this might be a week that we see the special teams kind of pop for us a little bit more, which I thought they played a great game. The other day, on Thanksgiving night. So let's see here. Holmes in the chat. We may see their practice squad D line players. That's very, very true. Very true. Could be. Deadfish in the chat. Yes, Marcus Davenport was drafted by the Saints with our number 1 pick that we traded down with. I remember that. Yeah, because I remember Packer fans kind of being upset that, man, we could have had Davenport. He was kind of on a lot of fans' radar, right? and we traded back. It seemed like it was ages ago, though, does it not, Dead Fish? Was that Ted? Was that Ted Thompson draft? I think it might have been. That's wild. Time flies when you're having fun. Joyce Martha with the gifting of 20 memberships here to 20 lucky viewers. You guys, whoever got gifted that, you'll get entered into the giveaway, man. This coming weekend, we got to come up with what we're going to give away. It'll either be an autographed jersey or autographed piece of memorabilia. We'll come up with something real cool for you guys. But if you're a member here on YouTube or you're a member of our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, you get a lot more access in there. But on YouTube here, this puts you into the obviously the running for the giveaways as well. So Joyce, thank you so much. You're too kind. We appreciate you supporting the stream and also hooking people up. As looks like iRock and Drew D got one. Awesome. Good stuff, guys. So we'll make sure you're entered into the giveaway this Thursday night. We'll do it on the post-game show as we announce a winner with the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel. Excited about that. All right. So that's all I wanted to show you guys on Twitter. Again, we're gonna look at the injury report as it becomes a little more in focus a little later in the week. I imagine, let's see, we play on Thursday. So Thursday would be game day. That would be, let's see, so it'd be Wednesday too. We should have a injury report coming out. What would it be? It usually comes out on Wednesday since we're playing 2 days early. That would mean Monday, right? So Monday would be the first, then Tuesday, then Wednesday would be the designation. So yeah, Monday. There you go. We'll get it cranked up and get you all the injury information as it comes in. Now let's shift gears and let's talk about. I really wanted to talk about the salary cap, but we're kind of running low on time. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it anyway. Let's hit on the salary cap real quick. I wanted to get an idea of, okay, what players should we really be keeping an eye on in terms of they may end up being free agents, right? And we hit on this going into the season because that's when Goody's kind of looking into it. But let's take another quick glance at it, all right? I want to know, you guys in the chat, we've got it low latency settings, so we should see your comments fairly quick. Hopefully that happens. We're going to go down through this list of future free agents. And what I want you guys to put in the chat, okay, is the name of the player and whether you want to keep him or let him go, okay? Stokes, let him walk, or Stokes, keep him, all right? Because, again, we're going to rattle through these quick. Here are the unrestricted free agents. Eric Stokes, all right? His previous average annual value was at $2.9 million per. Don't even worry about that number. What I want to know is, do you want him back on the roster for the market value? Think of it in that regard, okay? So, his market value, when he hits the market, listen, he's a very athletic dude. He's come back from the injury. He seems to be healthy now. You guys know my opinion. I'm not willing to pay too much to keep him. If it's somewhat of a small contract, I'm all about it. But, again, if it's something that his market is $5 million, whatever it may be, let us know in the chat, all right? Eric Stokes, how do you feel about it? Man, yeah, this is awesome. You guys, they're coming in quick here. Let's see what we got here. Donald in the chat. Stokes walk. Jen Wright, Stokes go. iRock says keep, all right? iRock wants to keep Stokesy. Like it. Ron Samble says Stokes walk. Drew D, Stokes walk. Dylan walk. I agree with both of those. I have to agree with both of those, Drew. And again, well, here's the thing. If it's the same contract we had Dylan on before, what do you think, Drew? I know what the answer should be. I'm trying not to laugh, but my focus went for, man, if we can get him back for $2 million, he's great for the community, the team. Are we building a football team? We're building a community, right? I know we talked about the locker room and it matters, but in this case, it's like, man, it's tough. It's tough to see some of your favorite players go. Corey Ballantyne's another one. Josh Myers. Let's take them one at a time. Let's focus on Stokes. All right, let's get everybody's opinion here on Stokes. Anthony in the chat says Stokes gone. Andre says Stokes cut right now. Man, Andre's coming in hot today. Holmes says let him go. Anthony says let Dylan walk. .com, that's an interesting name, says keep if it's cheap. See, I can understand that stance too there, Dot. Hopefully you don't mind me calling you Dot. If you get Eric Stokes for $2 million, I'm all about it. Now, you got to think there's value in knowing the system, right? There's value in the camaraderie in the locker room. But at what price are you okay with that? For me, it's probably less than $3 million per on average. And keep in mind, guys, less than $3 million per year on average. If you sign them to a 3-year deal, you probably cut bait in a couple of years and not even have any cap penalty, right? So anything over $3 million, I'm out on. So I like what Dot said there if it's cheap, right? And IROC said keep Stokes. Anthony in the chat says Ballantyne keep. I'm a big Ballantyne fan, but boy, the coaches obviously disagree with that, man. They are not Ballantyne fans just based off the snap count, right? Ron Sample says Dillon won't make it. Well, see what he does in free agency, right? He might warrant. Last time he said he got more money, a higher offer, I think, in New York. But obviously a higher offer in New York doesn't equal the same offer in Green Bay because of the taxes. It's just absolutely insane over there. Respect Oranges says, see you, Stokes. Thanks for the memory. All right. We're starting to get into Myers now here a little bit. So let's talk Josh Myers. Everybody get your answer in for Josh Myers. This is a big one, right? 26 years old. His previous average annual value was 1.3. You know, when you look at how much we paid Myers while he's been the starting center, it's probably pretty good value, don't you think? Good pass blocker. Not so good at run blocking based off of what we've seen in the past. I thought he was having the best year of his career this year, and the PFF completely disagrees. Maybe I've been a little too lenient in that regard. Yeah, Myers is one of those guys that if you can bring him back for $2 million or less than $3 million per, I'm probably okay with it. When you get into the $5 million range, I'm like, and on the market, he's liable to get $8 or $9 million per on the market because of the athleticism, right? Somebody else might see him and go, look, we like to run more gap runs than zone. He fits us better than the Packers. They're willing to pay for that, right? I do think center is a very, very, very important position. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the game in the rain where Elton Jenkins on the short week had to get out there and snap the ball in the rain, and it was disastrous. How many, botched snaps we had, right? But let's go to the chat, see what everybody's saying. Reef says Myers keep. All right, there you go. Daryl says Stokes and Dillon. Anthony says Myers gone. Jen Wright says Dillon walk, keep Brooks. Who's Brooks? Brooks. Maybe she meant Stokes. I think she meant Stokes. Yeah. All right, cool. Anthony in the chat says Wilson keep, talking about Eric Wilson. Man, I'll tell you, that's an interesting one. He's 30 years old, probably not going to get a whole lot of attention in free agency for that reason. If he does, it'll be like one of these fake 2 or 3 year deals where someone can cut bait after 1 year, not a whole lot of guaranteed money. But Eric Wilson, what's the price tag we would put on Eric Wilson, man? That's tough. That's really, really tough. What is Eric Wilson worth and for how many years? He obviously takes care of himself. That's the big running joke around the locker room. Is just like I think Matt LaFleur said he's got the best body in the locker room. He's just absolutely shredded. You could tell he takes his profession very, very serious and staying in shape and all that. So he might be one of those guys that can play a few extra years. Ideally for me, Eric Wilson would be probably, $2.5 million per on a 2-year deal, and you can get out of it after 1. Let him test the market and then try to get him back on that kind of deal. It's probably one of those things that drags out to like the second or third stage of free agency, that if you end up signing Wilson back, you'll get him back then. When you look at the linebacker room, and I won't pull it up on screen, but I'll kind of take a look at the cap table here. Matter of fact, we'll do that here in a second with some of these since we're out of the big names already. But when you look at the cap table and it comes to the linebacking room, the only players under contract in the linebacking room for next year is Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper. Now, keep in mind, Aaron Mosby is listed as a linebacker. I think we would all agree we've played him more as a defensive end, but it is nice to know that he can play a little stack backer if need be, just like Brenton Cox Jr. probably could. But Aaron Mosby is going to be a exclusive rights free agent. So if the Packers want him back, he will be back, right? But again, I don't see him as a linebacker. We weren't talking about, we're fine. We got Aaron Mosby, right? He's pretty much played defensive end. And this is on Spot Track's website. So you only got 3 linebackers coming back. Eric Wilson, Isaiah McDuffie are both set to be unrestricted free agents. I would like to have them both back for the right price. You know what I mean? So I imagine they're probably going to get to test the market. And then if they come back and, hey, look, we like what we got here, it might be one of those type of deals too that you just tack on, 2 or 3 voidable years and spread out a $2 million salary, right, over 3 years. And later on down the road, you just end up eating $300,000 in cap penalty type thing once they're gone, right? That could be the case too. So let's see if there's anybody else on this list here. Let me go on down and get everybody take here. Drew D, he's not worth the roster spot anymore. I like Wilson and Brooks. There you go. Daryl, Andre Dillard, you saying keep him at Daryl? I imagine that's what you're saying there. I'm not a big Andre Dillard fan personally. I think you just let him walk, and if you can get him back on a minimal deal, cool. IROC says keep AJ Dillon, so he's keeping Stokes and AJ Dillon, man. IROC, I think you fan like me, man. You get attached to players, don't you? It's tough, man. And both of those guys, great locker room guys, man. Their teammates absolutely adore them. So Ron Samble says keep Ballantyne at the minimum. Holmes MD1 says keep Dillon on the minimal deal. Okay. Brambo Stokes is gone. Let's see here. Donald Krieger, Andres. I don't know what he said. Let me go back. I better not. I'm scared. All right. Joyce Martha, keep Corey, Eric Wilson, and Josh. Okay. Again, for the right price, I'm all about keeping all these guys. I just I'm wondering what's going to happen when they hit the market, especially Josh Myers. That's really, really interesting. Wilson on a small contract, says Reef. I like it. All right, I think we're pretty well caught up. Trying to get to all of them here. Jen Wright says Myers keep if you can keep him for cheap. Joyce Martha says the same thing. Keep Josh. Respect Orange says keep Myers. He's played his ass off. It looks like the fans have really, really turned back to liking Myers as a majority, right? Daryl says Myers is a keeper. Now, Drew D says let Myers walk to upgrade him, but we need to pay him if we don't replace him. That's a great point, Drew. If it's going to be put some random Joe in at center as opposed to Josh Myers, yeah. But if you can upgrade him, right, that's roster building 101, baby. Like if you can upgrade it even slightly, yeah, do it. But if not, and that you don't have the convenience of doing that on the fly, right? It's like one of those things that you can really piss a player off if you lowball them and they go, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to hit the market and go somewhere else. That can really happen too. So we're sitting here talking as if it's just an easy yes or no. But the reality is there's guaranteed money involved. There's also security in the years. It's how the contract's structured, all those things, right? Daryl says Myers is a keeper. I think we already hit that one, yeah. Holmes, Myers keep if reasonable. Okay, there you go. So I love doing this type of stuff because I don't want to say it's completely surprising, but it seems like there's a lot more people that are higher on Josh Myers than I expected. Just kind of cool. So Bo Melton, I think somebody said keep Bo. Yeah, notice over here to the right, guys, you've got if I can get it to click, here we go. The ERFA means exclusive rights free agent. I don't want to get into all the details of what that means, but I will say if the Packers want them back, they'll be back, and they'll be back for very, very cheap. Okay. So Aaron Mosby, Bo Melton, Daniel Whelan, heck yeah. Lock Daniel Whelan up, boys. Give him a 4-year deal right now. Now, you got exclusive rights. There's no reason to at the moment, but Daniel Whelan needs to be the punter for the next decade or until his leg falls off. Emmanuel Wilson, another exclusive rights. So these guys are going to be back with the Packers. And you talk about building depth. And again, they got Aaron Mosby listed at linebacker. I see him more as a defensive end, but I'm all about bringing all those guys back. Kadeem Telford, I don't know. He hasn't really shown anything there. Caleb Jones is a restricted free agent, so he'll obviously be back as well. Isaiah McDuffie's unrestricted. I'll tell you this, man, that performance we got from McDuffie the other night, look at his average annual too, man, $902,000. What a steal that is. What a steal. Drew D says, I'd pay Whelan big money. Damon Stewart says Whelan deserves a check. So, yeah, we're all on the same page there, man. But we get to keep him for cheap because he's on ERFA. Winky emoji. Amen. Amen. He's sitting back going, this sucks. Because if he were to hit the market, he's going to be probably a top 3 paid punter in the league. But, again, that's another reason that Goody works the roster the way he does, because you set yourself up by signing these players that no one else likes. Especially a young player, whether there's undrafted or you sign them off the practice squad, and you start to fall into these exclusive rights free agent top tags and things like that. So, yeah, good stuff, guys. This is a fun conversation. I'm glad we did it. Let's look at the table real quick. I'm going to remove this and start this other screen. I want to show you guys the salary cap table real quick, and it's a good overhead look at each position group to kind of show you who we've got coming back at each position. I think this is always really cool to do. So I don't want to zoom out too far where it makes it hard for you guys and gals to read. And just ignore the sidebar. There's no way I can drop that news sidebar down. This is on Spot Track, though. It's an amazing website. I know me and Ryan were members over there. They do a great job breaking down the salary cap. So Let's see here. Jordan Love, quarterback room, right? Jordan Love and Malik Willis both under contract. Obviously, Jordan Love got the big deal. Malik Willis only $1.1 million against the cap this year. Next year, $1.4 million. What a steal as a backup! And that was the big plus to going out and trading for him. You traded a 7th round pick for a 1st round talent. Most people would say a 1st round talent, although he did drop to like the 2nd or 3rd round. You traded a 7th round pick. Let's just call it a 3rd round talent. Traded a 7th round pick for a 3rd round talent, and you got 2 years of the most expensive position in the league being set at one of the cheapest. It makes for his contract is 0.5% of our overall salary cap table. Think about that. Sean Clifford obviously is on the practice squad. The way that works, to the best of my understanding, if they're on the practice squad at the end of the year, you can sign them with the futures contract, and there's some age requirements, things like that we won't dive too deep into, but you can bring them back on a futures, and it kind of resets the deal for you, right? So, but Malik Willis will be an unrestricted free agent in 2026. By that time, you obviously want to find you a new backup quarterback, running back room. Josh Jacobs is under contract. A.J. Dillon obviously going to be a free agent. Marshawn Lloyd will be returning. Obviously, you get the rookie deal. Look at that. If he gets healthy, look at these salary cap table numbers, guys. This is really exciting. So Marshawn Lloyd, his cap hit this year, $1 million. Next year, 1.2, then 1.5, then 1.8. Never at any point in his rookie contract does he exceed $2 million against the cap. That's really exciting there. Now, the other thing, too, check this out. Exclusive rights free agent at the running back position. ERFA, Emmanuel Wilson, and Chris Brooks. Both exclusive rights free agent. If you want them back, they're going to be back. That's exciting to me. Your running back room is set. So when you see it that way, that's why I'm like, unless A.J. Dillon's a minimum contract, you just let him walk. It sucks. Great dude, great locker room guy, but I think you let him walk. I really do. All right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all. It's amazing. I was going to do a 40-minute episode. We're going hour 20, baby. Let's keep this train rolling. It's a fun conversation. I love this type of stuff. Being a business owner like this it's a dream job right here, man. You kidding me? To be able to work the numbers for a professional football team would be absolutely awesome. All right, wide receiver room under contract next year. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, Malik Heath. Bo Melton is an exclusive rights free agent, right? So let me make a note here real quick. I apologize for the delay. I just want to make sure I put this down here, roster building, so we have some notes so I can be accurate in the description on the podcast there. I hate it. I know I've said this before on the pod. I can't stand it when people put a podcast out, they put a title and make you think, all right, they're going to be having a long, drawn-out conversation on this topic. They talk about their favorite pizza and what they did on their vacation for 40 minutes and give you 5 minutes of the topic they said was in the podcast. That stuff drives me crazy. So Bo Melton, exclusive rights free agent. Obviously, you'll get him back if you want him back. Let me just give you a quick summary. The entire wide receiver room is coming back, right? That's what it comes down to. Unless you decide that one of these guys that are going to be free agents, Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, unless you decide, hey, let's trade one of those guys and get some draft compensation because we're not going to re-sign them. I can't imagine they're going to re-sign both. I could be wrong, but both are going to want good money. If I had to guess right now, this is me personally, I would think Christian Watson is going to be the one they choose. He's now healthy. He is more effective in the running game at blocking. Hands down, he's a better run blocker than Romeo Doubs. He obviously has the higher upside with the athletic ability, the frame, the build, all that stuff. In no way, shape, or form am I trying to dog Romeo Doubs. I'm not trying to do that. Dude's probably got the best hands on the team, to be honest with you. He's probably the second best route runner on the team. And both those things are very important, especially for a boundary X receiver. Although if Matt is wanting to stretch the field with the boundary X, which you did see Christian Watson, if I remember correctly, on the go ball, I believe Watson, I don't know, I had to go check the tape. I was going to say, I think he was playing X, but he might have been playing Z. Regardless, Watson on the outside makes that safety have to cover sideline to side. Like he has to cover all the way to the sideline for that deep ball, like you've seen Jordan throw there on Thanksgiving night. Romeo Doubs gives you that same deep ball, but not as much a threat of getting over the top. The back shoulder aspect is there, right? That's the tough one. So that's my question in here to you guys right now. And I'm going to try to get back to the chat and see what you guys say. Which of those two receivers, you can only keep one? Who are you keeping? Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs? And I listen, chances are they're both going to be on the roster next year, right? But who would you choose? Who would you choose between Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs? And just put their name, and I'll know. All right, that's your choice in there. Rather than don't worry about an explanation. Just give me the name. Again, that's the wide receiver room. We're sitting in a really good spot, guys. Got one of, if not the cheapest wide receiver rooms in the league, and it's going to stay that way moving forward. Let's go to the chat. Let's see. Jen Wright says Watson all day. Andre says Watson. Donald Krieger says Watson. Brambo says Watson. Reef says Dobbs. All right, Reef, got you, buddy. Drew D says Watson. Holmes, I like the way you answered it. If forced, we're forcing you for sure. Keep Watson. So his is Watson. Jameis in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says Dobbs. All right. He's going with Dobbs. I rock. Keep Christian Dobbs. All right. I guess he's saying both. All right. Anthony says Watson. So it seems like Watson's running away with it. We're on the same page there. For me, it would definitely be Christian Watson. And again, I don't think Romeo's a bad player. And that's why I was saying, like, if you go to them both early and try to get ahead of it and offer a very, very team-friendly contract to both, if one of them or both of them accept it, you could pay wide receiver one money for two players, right? And then in a couple of years, you got to reset for the Jaden Reed extension when that comes into play, right? Because I know we want to extend Jaden Reed. And you still got a couple of years before you have to decide on Dontavion Wicks. That's why I was saying, like, what if you went to both Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and offered them $8 million per, guarantee a good chunk of it, right? Because the Packers love to pay cash, and you could structure it in a way where you can get out of the contract in a couple of years, but that way you get them both back under contract. I don't think they'll do that because that is not the precedent that Goody set. But again, I think it's interesting to think about that. Would they do that, right? Drew D in the chat. Dobbs got a little risky since the personal issues that took place. I agree, Drew. And I don't think they were as bad as maybe some of the media painted it out to be, but there was definitely something there, right? He would not have gotten suspended if it was just a, hey, man, I had a complete breakdown here and sorry I missed, apologize to the team. From what I understand, and I shouldn't even comment because he may have done it and we not know about it. I don't even know if he really apologized to the team. Those players probably don't even care if he apologizes, to be honest with you. But you're right, man. There's nothing there. Let me put it this way. Remove the names. We had to suspend one of them for a game, and the other one's our best run blocker and most unselfish receiver on the team. Probably going with the better run blocker in Christian Watson, So it is what it is. Jen Wright says, to keep the team together, they might work with the team. That's they got a lot of camaraderie there, right? Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs came in the league together. They absolutely adore each other. I could see that being the case. Might take a little less money, right? Could be. Brambo, Christian is an elite talent and blocks his ass off. Amen, man. That's the perfect description there. All right. So let's move along here. Tight end. With the tight end room, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, and Ben Sims all under contract next year. And actually, in 2026, Ben Sims is a restricted free agent. So you got rights to him. John Fitzpatrick. To me, John Fitzpatrick's kind of shown a little bit. You guys remember the goal line block that we showed on Chalk Talk last week where he knocked a DB? I mean, he hit a DB in the next week, smacked him right in the mouth. He's under contract next year. So you've got your top four tight ends here that are pretty much protected. Now, whether you like Luke Musgrave or not doesn't matter. He's going to be on the roster for at least 2 more years, possibly 3, right? I know he's had injury concerns. He may come back and end up being the better tight end, but right now, boys, tight end is a dog in Tucker Kraft. I mean, how long has it been since we had a tight end that you can go, man, that's a true Y. He'll smack somebody in the mouth in a running game and then, receive for 60 yards. Who was the last tight end we had that was like that? People may immediately think Jermichael Finley. Jermichael Finley never blocked like Tucker Kraft, right? Like this is a traditional Y. Finley was kind of that hybrid, that flex guy, right? Yeah, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool to see where we're at there. Let's see, Joyce. Where did Fitzpatrick come from? It's a great question. I know he was a I want to say being 24 years old, he was an undrafted free agent, but just came out of nowhere. When we signed him, I'm going, okay, this guy probably be off the roster in a couple of weeks. And next thing you know, he's blocking at the goal line and making plays. So, yeah. IROC says we haven't ever, man. You'd have to think back to like Chewy. IROC, that's probably before your time, man. You look kind of young in your picture there. I wasn't a Packer fan in the 90s. Like I said, me and my brother, we rooted for the Steelers. And I got my first taste of NFL football rooting for the Steelers back then. But everyone compares him to Chewy. Probably was Chewy the last time we had him. So, Jen Wright, love my yak and cheese. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So the tight end room looks like it's pretty well set, right? Offensive line, we kind of hit on Josh Myers already, but under contract, Elton Jenkins, Jordan Morgan, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Jacob Monk, Travis Glover, and Kadeem Telford is a exclusive rights free agent. So essentially what you've got there is you're looking to build an offensive line of somewhere between 8 to 10 guys. So under contract, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you keep Kadeem Telford. So you got pretty much 2 roster spots there. And again, they may keep 11 or 12. They might only keep 9. Who knows? But you're looking at 2 or 3 roster spots there. So Josh Myers is going to be a free agent. Andre Diller's going to be a free agent. I let Andre Diller walk unless it's a minimum contract. That's just me. Donovan Jennings, I think he's on the practice squad. Yeah, so he will be reset and back on the roster unless somebody signs him. No doubt about that. So offensive line, 2 open spots unless you bring Josh Myers back. I kind of like Drew's approach. Let's look to upgrade it. If you can't upgrade it, bring Josh back for a somewhat cheap deal. But again, if he hits the open market and it runs wild, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? You just got to go get your replacement. Now, let's back up a second. It was reported last offseason that someone in the front office said that their center of the future is already in the building. Now, that could have been Myers. I don't think that's what they meant. I think they meant either Jordan Morgan, Elton Jenkins, or Jacob Monk is what I'm thinking. So if that's the case, you let Myers walk. I think you'll pick up if Drew's still in here. Drew, you're usually pretty good about this, or anybody in the chat if you know the answer. If Josh Myers walks, there's a comp pick, right? Like anybody who goes in this unrestricted free agency that gets a certain amount of salary, right? A certain percentage of the cap, you end up getting comp picks back. So there will be compensation involved there with like Josh Myers. So if I can get a quick answer on that in the chat, anyone who knows for sure, right? I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, here's Drew. Drew's my cap guy, man. Yes, as long as we don't sign someone to cancel him out. Got it. So is it just that it's just that position, right? I imagine that's what you mean by cancel him out. Now I'm interviewing Drew in here on the show, keeping him busy. So if you don't go sign a center, right, and that center is on the roster like was reported this last offseason, then you'll get a comp pick back. You've already got your center of the future, and then you go and draft players. So you would get draft compensation for Myers. It might be a 7th-round pick. It might be a 6th-round pick. Here's Drew. Every unrestricted free agent you sign takes away a comp pick for an unrestricted free agent you lost. There you go. So anybody we sign in free agency, you've basically got to show that you lost more in free agency than you gained, and it's not position specific. That makes sense. Cool. So you potentially got, by letting Myers walk, you potentially get a comp pick, right? Depending on how aggressive you are in free agency. So as far as the offensive line goes there, let's say Josh Myers doesn't return. If Josh Myers doesn't return and you kick Elton Jenkins to center, right, what you would see is Jordan Morgan or Sean Ryan going to guard, right, to left guard. Let's just say it's let's start left to right. It'd be Rasheed Walker left tackle. It'd be Jordan Morgan left guard. Elton Jenkins at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. I'm okay with that offensive line. I don't know about y'all, but I've seen enough from Jordan Morgan and Sean Ryan, if Jordan Morgan can stay healthy, that I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why overpay for Josh Myers when we know Elton Jenkins can play center and play it at a high level? Obviously going to need some reps to get brushed up. He hasn't played center consistently since he was in college, right? I kind of like that approach. Yeah, Donald in the chat, you hit it. I didn't want to talk about it, Donald. He says Zach Thomas so cheap. 1.2 million. Don't get used to that, boys. That's about the blimp. That's about the blimp up to it's gonna exceed Elton Jenkins' number of 17.6 or 14.4 at least. What they'll probably do is structure it in a way where you tack on a voidable year or two. We might luck up and keep it, somewhere between 10 and 13 million, but it'll probably exceed 14 million, I would imagine. Like you see the structure of Elton Jenkins' number, 14.4, right? And then it goes to, let me get my cursor back up here, 14.4, and then it goes to 17.6, and then look how it, bang, jumps up to 24.8, how they structured that. And the guaranteed money is paid somewhat up front. So if for some reason you don't want to keep Elton in 2026, you cut bait, you're probably going to save money there. I don't want to click off this screen and screw everything up that we got going on, but that's how that would work. So, yeah, he is so cheap, man. No doubt about it. He's and here's the thing, IROC says he's going to be expensive next year. I don't think he'll be expensive next year, IROC. Let me explain what I mean. And this is just based off precedent and how the Packers typically operate. Zach Tom is sitting at 1.1 million this year, and next year it's 1.2 million. If he signs a deal, that new deal won't come into place until 2026 unless the Packers want to front load that contract and spread some of that cap over into 2025. Now, they may do that. What I'm getting at is in 2025, don't expect Zach Tom's number to look anything like Elton Jenkins' 14 million. It'll be much cheaper, but it will probably get inflated a touch. The big cap hits are going to start in 2026, 2027, that type of thing. But again, I'm okay with paying great. You can overpay for great all day long. Zach Tom is a great tackle. I mean, that dude is a monster, man. And he can play anywhere. Here's the other thing, too. You get into a bond where Elton Jenkins, think about this. Elton Jenkins is your center, right? And let's say Jacob Monk doesn't work out. He doesn't turn into the player that we think he can be. Elton Jenkins is your center. He gets hurt. Zach Tom has value in coming over and playing center. Zach Tom is probably, and I'm not trying to dog Elton, Zach Tom is probably a better center than Elton Jenkins is. Think about that. But it's just so valuable having him at right tackle, right? Yeah. It's interesting, man. I love these type of conversations, though. These are a lot of fun. Andre says, let Monk play center and keep Jenkins at guard. There you go. Hey, that might be the plan, Andres, right? That might be the plan. And if Jacob Monk can do that, I'm all about it. You kidding me? With that look, it would be left tackle Rasheed Walker, right? Left guard Elton Jenkins, Jacob Monk at center, right guard. You'll continue that competition between Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan, and you got some flexibility as well as depth there. And then, of course, Zach Tom at right tackle. So, and here's the other thing, guys. Yeah, there you go, Jen. Good point. Sean Ryan can play center too. Yeah, matter of fact, he filled in at center at some point, right? It seemed like he did. So, with that being said, you're still going to be looking for 2 or 3 offensive linemen this offseason. What if Goody goes out? Think about this. In the same draft, Goody hit, and I hope I get the names right. In the same draft, he hit on Zach Tom, was it the 4th, I think? 4th or 5th? Rasheed Walker in the 7th. And some people were calling Sean Ryan a hit now, a 3rd-round pick. So you got 3 good – I mean, you got 1 great offensive lineman, right? You got another I would say good left tackle in Rasheed Walker. And you got what some people were saying are above average to good guard and Sean Ryan in the same draft. So when you go out and you draft 2 or 3 more offensive linemen, you're probably going to find a replacement for 1 or 2 of these guys that we're considering as starters right now in the next draft. I mean, Goody crushes it in the draft. So very, very interesting. Very interesting. Coach Lynn in the chat says, keep Myers unless Ryan or Monk can play center. I get that's kind of where we're at too, man. Here we go. Zach Tom was a 4th rounder. I always get them mixed up. So 4th rounder for Zach Tom. If Goody goes out and finds another Zach Tom outside of the first 3 rounds. Now, this is where we got to be realistic for a second. Zach Tom was an absolute stud of a hit, right? A draft pick in the 4th round. Do not convince yourself that Goody had a higher grade on Zach Tom than he did Sean Ryan. I think they were in the same draft, right, guys? Let me look at the contract. Yeah. So as fans, we go, oh, yeah, man, Goody knew that Zach Tom, and I'm not saying Drew's saying this or anyone else is specific. I'm just saying as a fan base, we do this sometimes. Goody didn't go, man, Zach Tom is way better than Sean Ryan, but Sean Ryan ain't going to be there and Zach Tom will, right? Typically, in today's NFL, you would have drafted Zach Tom in the 3rd round if you thought he had a higher grade than Sean Ryan. And it just so happens Zach Tom developed quicker, right? Coaches did could be the coaches did a better job of Zach. I doubt that. I think it's just Zach had a higher upside. There's no two ways about it. And the thing that stood out about Zach Tom to me is, first of all, Ryan Schlipp nailed it. The whole draft process, he kept coming back to Zach Tom, Zach Tom, Zach Tom. Zach Tom was his guy. I mean, he absolutely nailed that. And then the thing that sticks out to me is, I think he had pretty good PFF grades, if I remember correctly, in college, but also the versatility. That's something that the Packers covet. So when you get ready for the draft this year, look for those later round guys that can play multiple positions, right? Probably a tip there. So let's see here. Daryl in the chat. Jacob Monks is 6'2", 6'2", I think it's 6'2" and 3 inches, about 308-ish. He can pass pro and do a little run block as well. And I think it was Drew that talked about his lateral quickness too. Yeah, right here. Drew said Monk has lateral movement, in my opinion. So that's fantastic for the center position to be able to slide over right and help with those double team blocks when these teams come out and they like to, vacate the A gap completely and make that center kind of sit on an island. We like to approach it a little bit different. We like to mug the A gap and drop those guys out and keep the center there on an island, not blocking anybody. So got to have that lateral movement. Completely agree with that, man. Donald in the chat said, wasn't Walker really highly prospected until he had a major injury? I can't remember what it was. Drew probably knows the answer to that. I don't know if it was personal issues or what, but it did seem like Rasheed Walker was a little highly coveted until we got to the draft, and he kind of dropped for whatever reason. So we'll see. See what Drew comes up with there. Drew probably knows the answer to that question. He follows the draft really, really closely. So, all right. And we'll be looking for that if Drew has the answer. But until then, let's slide down and look at the defensive line. We'll go rapid fire now because we want to try to cover every position before we wrap this show up. If you guys would, take a quick second, hit that like button. Feel free to sub to the channel. We appreciate y'all making us a part of your morning here as we're just diving into some futures contract stuff. Tonight, we'll be doing Chalk Talk, breaking down the top 15 plays on the Telestrator from the huge Thanksgiving win over the Dolphins. And then tomorrow, we'll jump right into prepping for the Detroit Lions. What's their last 3-game saturation look like? What are they doing well? Where are they ranking as a team? We'll give you all the injury updates as they're extremely banged up. Will we be getting Jair back? Will Edgerrin Cooper have a chance to play? All those things that we want to talk about as we move along in the week. Thank y'all for, like I said, making us a part of your morning here. Defensive line, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary. Keep in mind, guys, it's got the edges and the tackles together. I like to separate them personally. I like to look at it like, all right, here's the defensive lineman and then the edge defenders. Because, I mean, you see, we're running a little bit of a hybrid defense this year. As much as we're dropping the defensive ends out, they might as well be a 34 edge, right? So there is a big difference between a defensive tackle and an edge defender as opposed to just a true defensive end that's only going to rush the quarterback. So I wish they had done an edge, but what we'll do is anything that says DE, we'll just treat it as an edge defender. But let's focus on the interior defensive lineman for a minute. Kenny Clark, under contract, right? Devontae Wyatt, he's under contract next year. TJ Slaton is set to be an unrestricted free agent, okay? Sucks. I think TJ's a pretty damn good ball player. Matter of fact, the Quay Walker sack that we're going to break down on Chalk Talk tonight, TJ Slaton completely disrupted the entire freaking play. It was, don't get me wrong, Quay, great play by Quay too on the Green Dog Blitz. But TJ, man, he ran right through the freaking guard, I think it was. Kobe Wooden, he's under contract. Kingsley Enagbare, that's an edge. Carl Brooks is under contract. And that is it. So let's count it off here. Defensive tackles, all right? Defensive tackles alone. We've got 1, 2, 3, only 3 returning. Now, how many defensive tackles should you carry? Most of the time, you're going to be in a nickel 4-2-5, right? And there's some cases that you'll run a little bit of a NASCAR package. So you definitely need 2, and you need 2 backups, right? So I think you need 4 at a minimum on your roster in terms of defensive tackles. So if TJ Slaton walks in free agency, your defensive tackles are Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, and Carl Brooks. You got room for 1 more. I'm not completely sold on Devontae Wyatt. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like we need to draft his replacement. And then if he pops and we extend him, you're looking to get out of Kenny's contract in 2026 where that cap hit jumps to a $31.6 million, right? You guys know I've been pretty vocal about this Kenny Clark contract. All last offseason, I thought, don't re-sign him, let him play it out. see what he does this year. Well, they went and extended him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know more than the front office. I'm not, but man, it's tough. So let's see. Holmes said I would pay Slayton. He's our best nose tackle. I'll tell you, man, he's played pretty damn well this year, in my opinion. PFF doesn't agree, but you look at pressure percentage and what he's done in the passing game when he's been in the game during passing snaps. I think he's held his own, man. I really do. Now, when you say I would pay him, you're not talking about Kenny Clark money, right? Kenny Clark is on the books next year for $20.3 million against cap. Not paying that. When you say pay TJ Slayton, probably at $3 to $5 million per range. Now he may go out in free agency and get 8 or 9, right? That could happen. I doubt it, but we'll see. Time will tell. All right. So, and I like what Reef said, LVN DTS. I think what he's talking about is, 4 D tackles. I don't know. I apologize. I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying, can LVN play D tackle? I think LVN can, but it's obvious they don't want to do that, right? They would have to put a little weight on him too, right? Beef him up a little bit if he's going to be a every down defensive tackle in this 43 scheme. Because again, we were kind of running a little bit of hybrid. And last week we played with the Sam on the line and showed a 5-man front, essentially going to a 34 jam. If he's going to be an interior defensive end in that type of situation where if you got 2 backs, it equals 2 gaps, then he's probably not a great 2-gapper, right? But if you're going to just play predominantly 1 gap, I don't want to go back down that conversation. So there's still people that don't understand that, the whole 1 gap, 2 gap thing, and it drives me insane. And there's no reason to even arguing about it. It's mostly media members that I'll just leave it alone. We'll move on. IROC says Clayton ain't giving no one money. Laughing. Yeah. Man, listen, I'm all about paying the right people, right? And if you can get a deal, again, I'll take every one of these guys back next year. They may not make it out of camp, but I'll take them all back for the right price, right? So it's the other thing is you got the Jordan Love salary cap hit is coming. You got to make a decision on the wide receiver between Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Got to make that decision. I just can't justify paying players that are going to sit on the bench. What it comes down to is do you pay them starter money or not, right? That's what I'm saying. You've got to model your roster out. You got to model your organization out and go, okay, I'm willing to pay 1 defensive tackle, huge money. I disagree that Kenny's the guy getting paid that, right? I think you could do better in free agency. You could have went and got like a Christian Wilkins. And to me, he's shown more than Kenny has. That's just my personal opinion. You'll pay 1 defensive tackle, huge money. 1 edge defender, huge money. You'll pay a mock linebacker, huge money. You'll pay 1 safety, huge money, right? And that's the nucleus of your defense. Notice I didn't mention corner, right? I would much rather have a $7 million Rasul Douglas than a $23 million Jair Alexander. That's just me personally. That's the way I see the cornerback position. Now, on offense, left tackle, huge money. Probably right tackle, huge money. Center, I'm willing to pay huge money. Quarterback obviously goes without saying, huge money. Other than that, I'm not saying minimal contracts, but don't go break the bank at these other positions. That's why I'm trying to justify and get myself in a position to say, okay, how can we keep both Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson without breaking the bank? You go there to them with the checkbook early, right? If you don't do that, they blow up. You're looking at franchise tagging them or paying top receiver money. Now, let's go off precedent now. Forget what I think. Forget what you think. What does Goody in this organization typically do? Now, Goody is cut from the same cloth as Ted Thompson, right? They're willing to give big contracts, that first big contract, re-signing a player they drafted. The second ones they get a little bit stingy on, right? A second contract extension. So you got your rookie deal, your first extension, and then potentially your second extension. Kenny got his second extension. They love Kenny, right? Devontae Adams did not get his second extension until he said, I'm done with this organization because they pissed him off and lowballed him. They offered him less than $20 million per, and he said, I'm done. Now, if your argument is that was the right move, Goody made it, I can't argue with that. Look at what Devontae's done since he left, right? Still a great player, I think, but playing with lesser quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers could play a role in it. Would he have been as effective with Jordan? I don't know. It kind of feels like there's not a true number one. Devontae's that isolation receiver. Like, hey, we're looking at Devontae every play, let him run choice routes, and he's going to get open. I don't like that approach to playing offense personally. But, yeah, what I'm getting at is like with these players that you may or may not extend, you got to go off a precedent. What have we done in the past for giving that second contract extension, right? And it being huge. So, but you're right, iRock. I am cheap in that regard. So that's your defensive line. Let's move on to linebackers. So linebackers, Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper are all under contract next year. They got Aaron Mosby listed as linebacker. I'm not going to acknowledge that right now. Let's just treat him like a defensive end. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to go defensive end. I'm sorry. So to wrap up defensive tackle, essentially what you got coming back is 3, go out and draft 1, or if you find the perfect pick in free agency, the Xavier McKinney type. Guys, listen. Xavier McKinney, tier 2 position of importance, post safety, spend the damn money. They did. They got him for a heck of a deal, in my opinion. Let me show you real quick, and we'll come back to defensive tackle. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Xavier McKinney's cap hit this year, 7.8. Next year, it jumps to 17.6, then 19 million. For arguably the best safety in the league, heck yeah, pay that money. The fact that he's 7.8 this year is impressive to me. So, again, if you can go out and find a defensive tackle that you go, that's our true 3-tech opposite of Rashawn Gary, bang, you're in business, right? But the problem is you've already paid that money to Kenny Clark. So what you're probably going to end up having to do is find a bargain deal in free agency, which with 3-techs, not going to happen. A great 3-tech is not going to be signed in free agency for pennies on the dollar. It's just not going to happen. So what you're going to do is take a swing or two in the draft this year and try to find the next great defensive tackle. Do it in the first round and don't be scared to do it. You know, I'm team trade back out of the first round, but if you're going to draft in the first round, go try to get a true 3-tech. You know, last year there was a couple players I want to say that were available. Drew, if you're still in here, man, tell me if these guys were available. If you know, if you don't, it's okay. Tell me if these guys were available when we picked Jordan Morgan this year, okay? These were my top defensive linemen. Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton, T'Vondre Sweat, and then it was Chris Jenkins. Were any of those 4 guys available when we picked this year? Again, those defensive linemen are Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton, T'Vondre Sweat, and Elton Jenkins. Were any of those defensive linemen available? I'm pretty sure they were. If we were to go back, I could probably pull it up with the mock draft database, but I want to get through this roster thing. Let me know, because what I'm getting at is I like the Jordan Morgan pick. It's a Goody pick. It's a Packers pick, a left tackle that has versatility that they plan on. They love drafting left. They love drafting tackles and playing them at guard. Right, he fits that. iRock said I think just 1. That could have been the case as far as those guys available. So let's move on to defensive end while Drew chases that down for us. Putting his ass to work this morning. So defensive end, you've got Rashawn Gary, LVN, right? You've got Kobe Wooden. He's listed as a defensive end, but he plays defensive tackle most of the time. Kingsley Enagbare. Carl Brooks can play a wide 9, but we'll leave him at D tackle. Brenton Cox Jr. So you've got 4 true defensive ends, right? Rashawn Gary, LVN, Kingsley Enagbare, and Brenton Cox Jr. You really don't need to go get an edge defender, in my opinion. You don't. Rashawn Gary's number this year, 11.1. Next year, it jumps to 25.5, then 28 million. That's going to be a steal by the time we get to 2026. Those defensive ends, their money's going through the freaking roof. So let's see. Drew said Sweat was. T'Vondre Sweat was. I don't even want to look at I just said that. I'm going to Google it anyway. Let's look at T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat PFF grade. And again, PFF isn't everything, but let's just see what he's done this year. He may be injured too. I don't even know. Oh, looky there, boys, 72.2. So if you had taken T'Vondre Sweat instead of Jordan Morgan, you got T'Vondre Sweat probably playing better football than both Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt. If you just said PFF's everything. Again, it's just one metric. So interesting there, right? Coach Lynn mentions Jonathan Ford. The thing about Jonathan Ford to me, Coach, he's on the practice squad, right? And he would be reset to a future, I would imagine. So you would have rights to him if nobody signs him when that contract voids at the end of the year or what have you. Or you get to a certain point where you can basically they're going to carry over. So I'm just not sold on Jonathan Ford. I mean, he hasn't even been able to crack into the lineup, right? So I just don't. I think that says a lot about what the coaches think, that he's sitting there on the practice squad. And listen, there's 31 other clubs that haven't signed him either. So that's just me personally. But yeah, Drew D says not sure about all the other guys, but Sweat was. So and listen, Sweat, I remember being really, really high on him because they dubbed him as just this nose tackle, but the reality was he was a really good pass rusher too in college. Now he was playing alongside Byron Murphy, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it was like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Who was the better defensive tackle that made the other one better? I don't know. But that's your defensive line room. Linebacker, Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, and Tyron Hopper, your only three backers coming back. Now, are you going to re-sign Eric Wilson and McDuffie? We talked about that. I think we would all agree we'd like to have both those guys back at the right price. But let's say they do go in free agency and they don't sign with the Packers, then you need to go out and draft at least one, maybe two outside linebackers, right? And again, outside linebackers being a stack backer, not an edge hybrid type, right? You want those guys to be a true stack backer. Really, it's a good idea to go looking at inside linebackers in college for an NFL outside linebacker, in my opinion, if you're going to play a 4-3 defense. So there we go. Here we go. Newton went to Washington in the second. Did he really? Jer'Zhan Newton. I wonder what he's done this year. Jer'Zhan Newton was my second best defensive lineman. If we had taken him instead of Jordan Morgan, you would have heard a loud redneck celebration from the great state of Tennessee. I promise you. Let's see what he's done this year. He may be hurt too. Jer'Zhan Newton PFF. 46.6. Boy, go Clayton would be y'all be roasting Clayton right now, wouldn't you? Again, it's not my personal opinion of the players, but it's the formula I use to create a draft board. But sounds like, again, man, that's the draft, right? Hit and miss, hit and miss. What's crazy is I seen him as a slam dunk top 20 pick. He fell to the second, and he's struggling. Shows you what I know, right? Go ahead and unsub to the channel if you like. So that's linebacker. We got, like I said, Aaron Mosby. That's a defensive end, in my opinion. So you're going to have space if Eric Wilson and McDuffie walk. You're going to have space to go draft one or two guys there. All right, let's move on to the secondary. Let's focus on cornerback first. Cornerback, you've got Jair Alexander coming back. You got Keyshawn Nixon coming back. Eric Stokes is going to be a free agent. So right now it's Jair and Keyshawn Nixon. Those are your two starting corners. They're both under contract for next year, right? Then it would be Carrington Valentine. And then on the practice squad, Kalen King. Again, it's kind of like the Jonathan Ford talk, like we were just talking about with Coach Lynn. Kalen King was that good, he'd be on a roster somewhere, right? He fell to the 7th. We drafted him. He didn't make the 53, or maybe he did initially, but he's on the 53 now. He's on the practice squad. It is what it is. But he will be on the roster next year, though, right? They'll get him back on futures and potentially put him back on the practice squad. So returning at corner, you've got 1, 2, 3. It looks like 4. Kamal Haddon will return 2 on the future, I'm sure. So that would be 5, but you've got space there. You need to probably take a swing in the draft, a swing or two in the draft to try to find a corner and upgrade, right? Keyshawn Nixon, I think, has held his own. Now, listen, his passer rating when targeted is bad. I think he brings value in stopping the run. There's no doubt about that. You've seen the hustle play where he forced the fumble. We've seen him sack the quarterback on quarterback rollouts because he's sitting in that curl flat zone sometimes, depending on the play call when he was in the slot. Now, if you play cloud, to me, he is that cloud corner. And what I mean by that is he's that dude that when you call a cover 3 cloud, one side of the field, that corner is actually playing the curl flat. Let me show you what I mean by cloud. I think I got it up here still. Yeah, here we go. So with cloud, let me drop that comment down. When you're playing cloud, notice the corner is covering the curl flat because the safety's covering deep third over the top. That's the far right diagram there, okay? So the linebacker inside is in a hook curl, a mid-zone, if you will. The cornerback is in curl flat. Keyshawn in a curl flat all day long. Now, him as a deep third, like if you're going to go to a sky or a buzz where he's got to cover deep, I struggle with that, man. I struggle with that bad. I do. So that's kind of what you got with Key. You can't play cloud every play. play cloud every play, you're going to get your lunch eat, right? That's going to happen. So that's kind of how I see Keyshawn. I think he's done a good job. I do. And again, the passer rating when targeted would not suggest that. The PFF grade isn't great, although if you do a minimum 20% snaps on PFF, I want to say he grades out in the 60s. So in the 60s as far as ranking. So that would suggest he's a solid number 2 corner, right, from a PFF grade standpoint, but still got a lot of stuff to work on there. Safety room. Returning, obviously, Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams. Taking multiple swings at a position, guys, put you in a great position. If you hit on one and you got depth of the future on a rookie contract, you're sitting go. Evan Williams is one of the best safeties in the game. We would all agree, right? His cap hit next year is $1.1 million. After that, it's $1.2 million. Like, think about that. Let's see if we can go a little bit further. I don't know if I can get that pull up. Here we go. Yeah. And then it jumps to $1.3 million. You got him. That rookie contract is absolute gold, man. Gold. And they traded up for him, and you know why now. Same thing with Javon Bullard, 1.2, 1.5. So you're good at safety. Katano Ladapo, even less of a cap hit. No reason to address safety this year, unless you just see a special teams player that you got to have, right? So you're feeling good about safety. That's it, guys. Like, what are the biggest holes here? You know, you've already made your decision on defensive tackle, so you're going to have to swing in the draft if you're going to try to find a stud, right? That's kind of a hole. Some of the other positions we hit on, like tight end, I feel good about the tight end room. I feel good about the receiver room. I feel good about the running back room. Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and Chris Brooks. Feel great about that, right? Quarterback, you're set. You got Jordan Love, and you got Malik Willis, one of the better performing backup quarterbacks. For some reason, Jordan gets banged up. I feel good about Malik Willis and Matt LaFleur putting their heads together and coming up with a diabolical game plan to just annihilate a defense. Corner and defensive tackle is like the spot that I keep going, yep, that's it right there. And linebacker, you know, try to find your next starting linebacker if you don't plan on extending Quay after next year, but you really don't have to worry about that right now. So this roster's in a good spot. And that's the reason I want to do this, because as we're going through the season, you know, we're doing 2 shows a day, and in this case, 2 episodes on one show in the morning. We have time for at least one episode to kind of break this stuff down, right, and take a look. But this was a lot of fun, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys kept it going. Thank y'all so much for helping me gather information. That's again, this is why we call it. It's Packers Total Access, but the channel Packer Fan Total Access. It's Packer fans coming together and talking ball, man. Love it. This has been an absolute blast. So we'll be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central. I'm gonna go hit the town here with the wife and go out and do a little Christmas shopping and grab some lunch and all that. But we will be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central, to do Chalk Talk, 15 of the top plays. In my opinion, the most important plays from the big win over the Dolphins there Thanksgiving night. So that being said, thanks everybody. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. Let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.